Happy Tuesday, Adam. How are we feeling today? Also, it seems like Twitter Spaces is rugging me, not letting me become co-host. So you need to send the invites out and let them up. So if you could send like Al and Rand Mara.
Yeah, I did send some out, but guys, just with it being glitchy and stuff, just raise your hand if you're not getting it, or if you're not getting invites for me. I have sent some out. Maybe just leave the space, come back in, try again, raise your hand, and come up on stage.
It's been glitchy today for me. It's super, super annoying. But here we are, man. It's been what, maybe 3-4 months since we've done a Spaces for stamps.
I
remember the last time.
Yep, lots happening. I think exciting times. I got a lot of people on the timeline talking about SRC-20s. I see, love to hear some thoughts on where the market is right now. I know there's been some listings and stuff, but obviously we want to talk about the open indexer and that sort of thing. And there's a lot to get to.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone please request to come up here. or we're just going to cover all of the stamps. I know there's a SRC-20 indexer that just popped up. There's like some sort of stamps name service that I've seen popping up as well. But I think the indexer and the open API is probably the most important one, because as we've learned across all of these inscription ecosystems, whether it's DRC-20, LTC-20, SRC-20, it always seems like the indexer is the main issue that gets these things off the ground.
Well, dude, it can divide communities, right? If it's not open and one person's in control of it, it can bum whole sections of the community out, right? So I think this is a huge step that this has now gone, completely open and it's public and everybody can kind of, battle it out about what it should be or not be or whatever. But I think Stamps community has been smart to, go the open and public route rather than keep it closed source and kind of crush the community or divide the community. I think that's a real negative. And it's also anybody wants to come up and just share what you're doing on Stamps, more than welcome to do a little shilling today. Perfectly open for it today.
A little chilly. Yeah. One note before we do get on with the conversation, we did announce today that we launched Emblem Markets public beta. So what does this mean for the Stamps community? This means that right now we have a Bitcoin Stamps collection that is available to be traded. We still have to migrate over. I think it's like 3,000 stamps over to that collection, which we are hopefully going to do here pretty shortly. Emblem Markets is going to, it's a work in progress. And I would say over this next month, we'll have all of the assets migrated over. Everything will be efficient. 1% marketplace fees. And then we'll be taking requests for any individual stamps collections who wants their own collection. I know Stamp Punks was the most popular one. I haven't been paying close attention recently to see what the trending collection is now. Although I know Stamp Ninja has been doing a good job, and OpenStamp also seems like they have been kind of leading the pack in terms of infrastructure, and like a Stamps L2 that I saw popped up recently. But without further
Stamps L2, I didn't see that. I missed that one, man. We'll have to get into that.
There was Swamps, which I think like got exploited or something like that. And then their OpenStamp is like doing their own. I'm gonna have to pull it up here in a second. But I'd love to pass it over to Reina Mora, who is one of the leads behind the open source indexer. How are you doing today, brother?
Good, good. Thanks for putting on the spaces. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, before we do get started, please, everyone, retweet the spaces. It's pinned to the top. And if you have any questions, you can pop on the live stream, pop a question in here. We will answer them, or in the bottom right-hand corner, that purple button, you could go ahead and post that and we will answer those questions away. But without further ado, yeah, Reina Mora, man, give us the juicy details on the pain that it probably took to build open source indexer and API.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. It really started as a quick script when I had some time off of work for Mike and Space, of course, when he came up with the idea a little over a year ago, I guess almost a year and a half ago now. And yeah, that went pretty smooth. And things just kind of took off way faster than anybody expected, and turned into a year and a half coding project to get everything where it is now. But pretty happy where it is. We have a lot of tests and a lot of validation, a lot of I'm happy to have it open source to where others can jump in and contribute and validate things.
So tell us, like, for those that aren't aware what SRC-20 is, let's just go back to the basics. It has been, I don't know, maybe 3 months or so since we've held the Stamp Spaces. What is SRC-20, and what's the main difference between SRC-20 and BRC-20?
Yeah, the big thing is it all started as a meme on BRC-20, because of course the whole start of Stamps was a meme against ordinals, and the fact that ordinals are prunable. So of course Stamps cannot be pruned. And we just carried that into SRC-20, the unprunable version of BRC-20 was the whole impetus for the project.
But diving in a little bit deeper, okay, what does unprunable mean, and why would somebody choose SRC-20 over BRC-20?
Yeah, it's really just the permanence on Bitcoin. It's stored in the UTXO set on the account side of Bitcoin, so it's permanently stored in the Bitcoin data as opposed to ordinals and BRC-20, which is stored kind of in a separate section of Bitcoin that can be removed from nodes. So in order for Bitcoin to operate, it doesn't need to have any of the SegWit or ordinals or BRC-20 data for Bitcoin to keep going. It's just an extra, almost unnecessary piece. However, stamps and SRC-20, we stamp on stamps. It has nothing to do with inscribing. I know a lot of people say that stamps are inscriptions, but of course, inscriptions require sats, which don't even exist in the first place. So, kind of our whole meme on the project.
The tell us a little bit about where it is now. Obviously, SRC-20 started on Counterparty, and there was a whole, civil war about that. But where is it now? How do they work now compared to how they worked at the beginning?
Yeah, it did start on Counterparty, just like how stamps operate. Because of the mass amount of transactions that SRC-20 was generating at the time, and kind of the current attitude of the prior maintainer of Counterparty, we chose to shift that off of Counterparty. However, we do use almost exactly the same transaction type as Counterparty. So it's stored in the same manner as we would for stamps, in a multi-sig output, which is the unprunable piece. And instead of just having a Counterparty prefix, it just has a stamp prefix on Bitcoin. We could get into a lot more details on that, but
Please.
yeah, it's essentially the same type of transaction.
So it's the same type, but it's not. It doesn't interface at all with Counterparty anymore. But stamps still do.
The Counterparty, correct. Yeah, the Counterparty indexer doesn't see stamp transactions anymore. However, the stamp indexer sees both stamps, which happen to be Counterparty transactions, and also sees the SRC-20 type transactions on Bitcoin directly as well. So that's kind of the special sauce of the stamps indexer.
Now, what happened? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jake.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, so from your personal journey, right? SRC-20 left Counterparty because there was some hostility towards SRC-20 being considered spam. Ultimately, SRC then left and is, quote unquote, I've heard people say it's basically raw dog in the UTXO. You're just putting a JSON file directly into the UTXO? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, into the multi-sig output on a Bitcoin transaction. Exactly like stamps operate on, or I guess I could kind of specify that. There, on stamps in general, there are two types of transactions. The new transaction type, which we call Olga, which is a slightly different type of transaction, which doesn't use the multi-sig output, uses a P2WSH output. So it's stored a little bit differently, a little bit more efficiently. We're not using the base 64 in that technique. We're using just the raw binary file of the data. So transactions are half the size in that technique. However, SRC-20 still uses the multi-sig type transaction. So it is somewhat, it's not using base 64 on SRC-20. So we don't have that extra kind of waste that we did initially on stamps. And we also made stamps more efficient, cutting the size down by half. So that argument of stamps being super, super wasteful is not totally accurate anymore.
What's the comparative price now? If you're, obviously there are a lot of variables that go into it, Bitcoin fees and so on and so forth, but comparatively to inscribing something on ordinals now, is it 50% more, 100% more? What's the kind of general price breakdown now?
Yeah, I think we're a lot closer. We don't get the discount that ordinals do. I'm not exactly sure the percentages. Maybe somebody else on here who's doing a lot more with the stamps could jump in and give us some of those details. Actually,
maybe HNFT Pepe, because I know he mints a lot, can let us know, or somebody jump in.
For sure.
Pepe, you there?
There?
Yo,
What's
GM.
up, man? Good to talk.
Good morning.
You too, guys. Thanks for having me on. So what's the question? What am I?
So the question is pricing, like to actually, mint stamps now. What is the cost comparative? I mean, if compared to ordinals, what a kind of cost now comparatively is it? I mean, because stamps at one point was, God, I don't even know, 4 or 5 times the cost of ordinals. Is it double the price, 50% more? What do you think now? What's your estimate?
Yeah, I mean, it varies, but it's definitely allowed me to mint a lot more. It's a little bit more than ordinals because I've minted ordinals as well. But with Olga, I've been able to do a lot more. Like, for example, I just created a collection called the Unprunables. It's like a SVG vector collection. And the whole collection it's a total of 15, and they're all legacy stamps. But when Olga popped out, I was like, I should do something else with this collection. So I created collectible cards. If you check out my pinned tweet, there's more information on the collection. But basically, I created 15 collectible cards. So whenever I release the collection, I'll probably go with like an auction style. Those 15 collectible cards will come with any legacy unprintable that you buy. But having Olga has allowed me to do some different things. And I haven't really mentioned it or anything, but I'm also working on sort of a recursive collection, also SVG vector, and it'll be about 200-ish supply. And again, that's, thanks to Olga, that's allowing me to continue to stamp, man. I mean, I've been around since sort of the beginning, still keeping the faith for immutability, unprunable, permanent art on Bitcoin, and hoping that someday people will give a shit about that. Nobody really gives a shit about tech. We know that. It's all about the moon boy shit and whatever's going to make you money now. But I do believe, and I still keep the faith that at some point, it will matter to collectors, and I hope to more artists. I mean, honestly, from an artist standpoint, it's like, yeah, I know I'm going to be paying a lot more, but I'd be devastated. I'd be pissed off if someday I minted a collection on whatever other blockchain that just uses the pointer to some centralized service, and I'm like, oh shit, where's my art? It's fucking gone. So that I'm happy to pay more and have that permanence, that immutability, and continue to keep the faith that at some point.
So the Olga and using that technique, obviously created by JP Jansen, obviously had a big part to do with that. But tell us from an artist standpoint, as far as minting stamps, is it basically the same? It's seamless to do. This has been integrated into like the minting aspect of it, or do you have to have some experience and knowledge to actually use that technique?
No, man, it's the same thing. I mean, they made it. There's no difference from when you're minting a legacy stamp. It's actually the default now. So in a sense, it's easier, because if you want to mint a legacy, then you've got to go back and click that you want to mint the legacy option. But you're going to pay, twice as much. So I don't know. It depends on what the legacy means to you. But as far as like streamlining the process, they've done that. It's easy on Stampverse, on Ninja, any of the services that are available. It's the same thing.
Interesting. So, Norma, I have a question here. So I pulled up on the live stream, Binance.com. I think they put the announcement out. They said that the SRC protocol's core developers have announced the open sourcing of their indexer code on GitHub. This move allows users to query and call the front-end interface. The SRC ecosystem includes 3 token standards: SRC-20, SRC-721, and SRC-101. For somebody like myself and Adam who have no idea what that means, could you put it in layman's term what an open sourcing of the indexer code means? Why would Binance put this on their website, and what now does this allow for with this being open source?
Yeah, the big thing is just validation. And the counterparty guides, kind of the thing that goes with the history of counterparty is don't trust, verify. So we're allowing anybody to utilize the code and verify all of the balances of SRC-20 tokens and stamp tokens as well. So you can make sure the indexer isn't accidentally or purposefully inflating an account's balance, for example, things like that. So that's really the major benefit of the indexer. And then the second piece is allowing others to build upon it or integrate additional what you could call sub protocols, like SRC-721 is kind of a sub protocol to stamps. The initial version of it uses similar JSON strings that we would do on SRC-20, but it allows for recursion where you can stack images and have much larger, more highly detailed images. And the same thing with the new version of SRC-721R, which is the recursive version, which allows us to do a lot more JavaScript code within the stamps to create games and much more like animated type stamps and a lot more detail.
So is recursion possible with stamps now?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's primarily through the SRC-721R. Actually, in the GitHub, there's a link over to Derp's repository that has some details on that. But some of the more current ones are the hyperspace stamps, and the Assange collection was a good example. I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but it's kind of a 3D stamp that rotates around, and you can click on the different flags to change the language of the Assange quotes. That's a really cool collection and a good use case. I've heard of some cool things coming out with that as well.
So if I'm a builder and this is sounding attractive to me, what are the requirements to access the indexer? Do I have to run a full node? Can I just plug into the API? Are there any type of third-party services that make this easy? How do I go about this process?
Yeah, the simplest way is just to use the Stamp Chain API as always. That's always been fully open and free for anyone to use. The more complicated way, somebody like a wallet or somebody who's providing more infrastructure type services like OpenStamp, for example, they run their own indexer, which is this code as well. So it's somebody who really wants to dig into more of the technical nitty gritty details or add, like I said, potential sub protocols or additional features onto stamps overall, similar to SRC 101, which is still in development. These guys are doing a name service on top of stamps.
I had a question about, I tried to invite the leather guys on. Where do we sit right now in the stamps kind of and SRC-20 ecosystem with, like, I think OKX was going to integrate stamps. I know Leather has to some degree. Where does it currently stand for those kind of two big wallets?
Yeah, Leather is currently using the Stamp Chain API for all of their data, so they're pulling down stamps and SRC-20 balances as well. We certainly can help them on the code side if there's anybody out there that wants to help them integrate that into their wallet to do more additional stamp transactions like minting and deploying SRC-20 tokens and so forth natively in the wallet. But they were great. They've been around since the beginning of stamps, integrating things and, like I said, utilizing the Stamp Chain API.
So what can you do right now on Leather with stamps?
Well, Leather, you can, when you're logged into your wallet, you can see your stamps and you can see your SRC-20 token balances. Of course, it shows the stamp images and all that stuff. But in order to do any detailed transactions, you would need to be logged into a website like OpenStamp, for example. OpenStamp creates the transaction and then you sign it with Leather. And then, of course, you'd see your stamps or your SRC tokens within Leather, regardless if you're connected to OpenStamp.
Okay, so I've pinned to the top the open source indexer and API. If somebody is interested in that, you can kind of go to it. And click on it and go dabble around for yourself. I do want to pass this over a little bit and talk with the Bitcoin Ape, who's somebody I've been communicating with and had this really awesome kind of stamps ecosystem chart that I'd shown earlier on the live stream. The Bitcoin Ape, man, what excites you so much about the stamps ecosystem? You know, you're somebody who I continually see on the timeline and is continually creating all of these awesome graphics. Why do you prefer stamps over these other kind of Bitcoin ecosystems?
GM, everyone. So thanks first Jake and Adam and everyone to organize this this space. It's amazing, and thank you very much. So now regarding SRC-20, SRC-20. For me, frankly, I've analyzed all the protocol on Bitcoin. I've seen BRC20, originals, runes, ORC20, atomicals. But the crazy things about stamps and SRC20 as an investors, but also as a Bitcoin aficionados, Bitcoin lover, because I think Bitcoin will save the world. Frankly speaking, it will save the world, Bitcoin. So for me, now SRC20 stamps are like Bitcoin little brother. Why? Because when you check the code and when you analyze, deeply, this ecosystem, you see and you understand that it's permanent and unprunable on the Bitcoin blockchain. That means when you invest and you got some stamps, some art, music, or tokens on SRC tokens like stamps, Kevin, SRME, UTXO, Pepe, Bobo, and much more. It's like you invest a little bit on Bitcoin. So the magic of SRC20 and stamps in the end is that they are made of Bitcoin, and that's the beauty of it. So that's why I'm really, really excited about it. And I'm sure that in the very close future, the masses, if I can say like that, the people, because it's a crypto made and it's art and tokens made by the people, for the people, and for sure the people and institutional, and everyone will tell you about digital, about the digital world, will have an eye on this ecosystem. And thanks also all the community. Thanks for the founder, Ron Omar, Mike in Space, Arwin, Steve, everyone who involved in the ecosystem. And again, thanks again for Adam and Jake, who are supporting since the beginning the ecosystem. So thank you very much, everyone.
Adam, I've been here kind of since the beginning. When I stamped my first stamp, I think it was stamp number 130. It was like $250 for one stamp.
Oh, it was so, I mean, this is like, we'll laugh about it. And of course it gets more funny over time, but there was like, I had serious reservations about the amount of money I spent to inscribe or to mint those first stamps, man. I mean, it was like, there was serious FUD going on in my brain. Like, I don't know if I am just literally burning this Bitcoin to the ground. It was so expensive, man. I don't think I got one under $100, those first ones. Even doing like, I think Jake and I laugh because some of the early ones I did for Jake are like blurry because I did them wrong or whatever. And they're like his blurry stamps, but it's like, I was trying to compress them and make them super small and they came out blurry and stuff, but that still costs like $150. It was crazy back in the day.
It was fun when we joined the Telegram. I think there was 9 people in the Telegram at the time.
Yeah, dude, it's so awesome.
Yes, indeed.
It's fun. So I pulled up here on the live stream. I'm kind of just going around through some of the infrastructure and the Bitcoin Ape. I'm actually using your awesome visual on your profile to find some of these. SRC Pad, who Emblem's been close with for a while. They built a really cool explorer for SRC and for stamps, and even these most 3 recent blocks on Bitcoin, looks like there was 4, 5, and 4 stamps. So it looks like every block is getting some stamp action, which means that, you know, the community is alive somewhere in there, right? The issue, and maybe this is like a kind of a solid talking point, and we've discussed this last time, is, you know, what's the breakout use case for stamps? And this is a question that Adam and I propose for every single ecosystem is, you know, what's the native feature? But then also, right, what will get people to come to stamps and to participate? We're seeing, right, looks like the Open Stamp team has done some traction. There's been some exchange listings. Even Binance, I see posting about SRC-20 and stamps pretty consistently. But Bitcoin Aper, what do you think is what do you think can be the breakout use case for stamps to maybe turn some heads and people start reconsidering that this is something very slept on?
Do you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, so now regarding your SRC-20, of course, you know, for sure they will have a great narrative built on top of it. First of all, you know, is the art. You know, myself as a art collector, what I'm looking for as an investor in art is like, you know, immutability, and of course, you know, permanence. Because for sure it will be for this art. Will be for me, but I hope that for my kids or grandkids in the future, if you like, you know, some permanent art, Bitcoin blockchain will be the best, you know, infrastructure to store your art. And for sure, stamps now answer this problem, because, you know, we got Ethereum, we got maybe AVAX or any other chain who are great chain. But now, regarding permanency and immutability, if you are looking for something can't be pruned, stamps can play this role in art. And of course, you know, I can see other narrative in real estate, for example. Now you can tokenize real estate. For example, we can, you know, divide your flat, apartment, or your home in different share, and sell it through and tokenize it. And stamps could be a great infrastructure. So we can use some SRC token, and as it's permanent and immutable, you can be sure that it's we can find who is the real owner of the number of share in the and who own each share on each flat or home. So stamps could be quite great for that, and also in financial,
Oh, do we lose him?
He rugged out a little bit. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. Like anything where you want that kind of guaranteed immutability is obviously art is makes perfect sense. And stamps is going to have to battle with ordinals. You know, it's still very much the narrative on ordinals. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, I'm going to play the other side of this. I just don't think that really gets the job done.
I agree. I agree.
Like permanence is more of a novelty at this point. So the consideration is, how do you change the market sentiment around permanence? Like, how do you get people to value it more? Or does the stamps ecosystem introduce something that is new and novel to where it leads to, you know, speculation? Because we've now been hearing the permanence, you know, messaging for over a year, and it's got some traction, and there's a lot of builders, but I'm just trying to see if there's something new. And so as we've been having this discussion, I've been kind of looking around all these different protocols, and there's something new here called a fair pool, which is proposed by OpenStamp, which is something interesting, at least that I've found. It says that fair pool is a new mint model for SRC-20 tokens proposed by OpenStamp. And as we've seen throughout Bitcoin, all these new kind of mint models tend to be somewhat popular, whether it's the free and fair open mint of DRC-20, right, or the fair mint, or if you have this like DMT mint now with digital matter theory with their kind of mint blocks, or if you're doing just the 100% airdrop distribution. It seems like these kind of mint models tend to attract people. So this is kind of one of the more interesting things. I will throw this over to NFTFi though. What is going to bring people to stamps outside of just permanence? Do you have any considerations or anything that you find attractive in the stamps community? Oh, what the fuck? Oh my God, was I minted that whole time?
No, you weren't. I hear you, but maybe that's just me. Guys,
Yeah,
give a thumbs up if you can hear.
I'm getting rugged by this. All right, so here, let me present this again. So, we've been hosting Stamp Spaces for, almost a year and a half at this point, and the permanence layer, right, or the idea of permanence, it still seems like it's a novelty. And, now 18 months into this or 15 months into this, it doesn't seem like it's effectively getting the job done to attract, speculation or attract, a ton of users. I was looking at Stamp. It has 4,000 owners, which, to be fair, is not a lot comparative to some of these other protocols, whether it's BRC-20 or DRC-20, right? Or some of these other ones. And I'm looking over here and I was looking at OpenStamp and I found something called a fair pool, which is some sort of new mint model, which seems to which could potentially, lead to some new users. If you look at BRC-20, they had this like open mint. You look at the pre-runes, had this free and fair model. You see DMT on Bitcoin, and they have this kind of like mint block, which seems to be doing well. So maybe this fair pool could do something. But I do want to pass it over to some people on stage, like NFTFi. What is going to get stamps in, the spotlight to the rest of the Bitcoin community, or attract new users that are outside of Bitcoin, that maybe they find something attractive in this ecosystem that will lead to, the speculation, liquidity, user kind of flywheel, which is what most of these, emerging protocols on Bitcoin are kind of looking for. Do you have anything that stands out in your opinion?
No, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure what changes that.
He's like, no, I'm an artist. I don't care. I'm just gonna do my art.
I don't give a shit. I just make art. Come on. No, but I mean, it's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if do I think, that ordinals are going to disappear because all they decide to prune them? No, but could there be an actual attempt that leads to some FUD that creates some sort of spark for stamps? Yeah, it's possible. What else? Maybe there's more builders that come in. We have an open indexer now, so maybe we're attracting builders and we create these new platforms and tools for the stamps community to use. Maybe it's bringing in new artists, bringing in bigger names to create an immutable and permanent art on Bitcoin. I don't know what leads to it, but like I said, I still have the faith. I still believe in it. And at some point, maybe that's the narrative is people actually start to give a shit about tech, which actually hasn't really happened in crypto, but we'll keep the faith.
Bro, I just came up with the idea. This is what we do, guys. Everybody go follow Luke Dash Jr. And we boost the shit out of Luke Dash Jr.'s posts and get those ordinals pruned, man. That's the way forward, bro. Get the ordinals pruned, stamps explodes, man. That's the future.
I'm DMing Ocean Mining right now. On
it. This was actually I'm not trying to be tough on stamp community. This is actually a question that I had proposed to the SRC pad when I became an advisor to their platform. The issue is that I think stamps is severely lacking some very firm infrastructure that needs to be built. And so if you're a launch pad, where is that? Sorry, Adam, your co-host, you got to mute it.
Yeah.
So the question I proposed to them is, hey, if you're a launch pad, the two things that you need to do is, first, you need to attract talent, and then you need to vet talent to ensure that it's the right projects that are being sent out into the public. There's been one project's gone through their launch pad so far, which was the SRC Labs. But it just seems like there's something that's missing here, and the community really hasn't been able to figure it out. I mean, it could just be fair to just say that, stamps will always just be a novelty and nothing more than that. But the amount of retweets and attention and engagement that I see in the stamps community seems like it's much larger than kind of what exists kind of in the current public market. And so it's just a fair question of assessment is what's going to take it to the next level. I mean, you're going to have even more meta protocols are starting to pop up. Runes is somewhat taking the show. Now you have this whole programmable runes, right? You have BRC 20 2.0, Counterparty 2.0. It's starting to get a little bit crowded in this area. So I don't know. I'd leave that question up to anybody who'd like to come up. Mike, who's the creator of Stamps, is on stage. What do you give us some foresight, man, as somebody who created this? What is going on out there in the terms of innovation on Stamps?
So I just want to preface it by saying I'm at the mechanic right now, so I can't say a lot, but I had to hop on the space because I just heard the last bit. One thing to recognize is, Counterparty 2.0 is coming very soon. That's 10.3, and all those upgrades are automatically inherited by Stamps. So you have the atomic swaps and a lot of the things that are going to allow marketplace integrations that have kind of held Stamps back to date, right? So Stamps is never going to be ordinals, right? It's never going to be that big. It's for a sort of niche community of collectors and artists who value permanence. But, we're no longer going to have this sort of handicap where, we're not able to do atomic swaps and things like that. So, knock on wood, there's some great things on the horizon for Stamps. And, even a lot of these sub protocols that are being worked on, like SRC-101. And to me, it's all exciting. To me, Stamps has been a success to date, even if it doesn't grow any further than it does right now. It's still the biggest thing on Counterparty. You kind of have to put things in perspective here. Totally. It's like Stamps is tiny compared to ordinals, but it's also the biggest thing on Counterparty. So you kind of have to bear that in mind. So I'm gonna hop off, but I'm gonna keep listening. Great spaces. Thanks.
Hold on, Mike. One more thing. Just tell us, for everyone who's listening, tell us what the big upgrade to Counterparty is and why Stamps benefits from that. Like, what does that introduce?
So basically, in 10.3, historically, Counterparty uses an account-based model that is completely separate from being tied to UTXOs. And with 10.3, users would be able to tie their assets to discrete UTXOs, similar to how ordinals work. So you'll be able to do things like atomic swaps, trustless atomic swaps that you can't really do today. And we're hopeful that that sort of upgrade will allow for like marketplace integrations and wallets and whatnot. So with the new open source indexer and atomic swaps coming, and also like there's some other things coming where we might be able to do sub assets on Stamps, because we're working with Counterparty devs to do some upgrades there that are definitely helpful for Stamps. And I would just say stay tuned or keep an eye on the GitHub. And there's a lot of things brewing under the surface right now for 10.3.
Awesome. Is there a tentative date on when that may come out?
So, I mean, Adam and Evan, I mean, they a month or two, that's kind of been in the air, but like the classic 2 weeks, right? Like it's hard to say when, but I'm hopeful sometime in 2024.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it, Mike. I'll let you go. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you for that explanation. I'll go to some of the hands. I saw Dave. Do you have your hand up, brother? Good to see you. And
man, just wanted to say what's up to you guys. Adam, what's good? Jake, what's going on? All these acronyms, my head is literally spinning, and I've been in here 15 minutes, bro. Oh my God. It's kind of nuts. Like every time I hear stuff that I'm like, it sounds so foreign, but not that the stamps are foreign. Cause I think I even own some stamps that I bought way back when. But I always go to like, I always go to my trusty friend Junie over here, aka GPT, and I ask for help, because for me, it's like, I need it broken down sometimes so much more like simple, but this is far from simple stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I just the DMT stuff is what I'm kind of interested in. Also, I heard somebody mention it, Jake. I don't know if it was you, but somebody released a project on Stacks. Shout out to Jack. These Stacks invaders, where I still don't understand like DMT. I've yet to really like dive into it. I don't want to take the thunder or the shine away from Stamps or anything. So if you guys want to maybe like if we could chat about that for just a second, somebody explained it to me in like 30 seconds. I would be insanely appreciative. But if not, all good.
Yeah.
We don't have to deviate. Yeah.
I'll take a stab at it. So when you come to the kind of the Bitcoin ecosystem, think of all these different meta protocols, whether it's ordinals, DMT, stamps. Those are kind of like these non-fungible or NFT standards. Think of them as like kind of ERC-721s, but in their own form. Whereas things like SRC-20, BRC-20 runes are kind of the different ERC-20 standards, but on Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin lacks standardization and doesn't have smart contracts, everyone kind of is just taking their own twist to what's a fungible token or what's an NFT. DMT's twist here, digital matter theory, is kind of this play on this trend that I was speaking on earlier, which is Bitcoiners, at least the degens on Bitcoin, have really kind of found that if you could create some sort of decentralized mint, or what they call free and fair mint, then it attracts a ton of speculation. And this has happened with BRC-20, with kind of the open mechanic, with ordinals. Originally, it was kind of this first is first, where somebody puts out these images, and if you're the first to inscribe it, then it's essentially yours. And DMT is somewhat of this kind of combination of multiple things. You're creating fungible assets and non-fungible assets with this, I guess, distributed or decentralized asset creation kind of mint platform that's baked into Bitcoin itself. I'll try to go one step further on this. So digital matter theory is this idea that Bitcoin has all of these sequences or numbers throughout it. And you can basically mint or derive non-fungible assets or fungible tokens based off of the numbers or the patterns that exist within Bitcoin's blocks itself. And so, right, that's why they call it non-arbitrary assets, because if you can discover what these patterns are, you basically tell the community in the DMT what these patterns are, and everyone could go ahead and go mint it. Go ahead and mint them.
So rather than just to give it like the full monkey view, which is like my view on it, right? Like I can make up whatever a BRC-20 name, right? I can make one up, just make it in my mind and mint it, and there you go, right? DMT is like, well, each block begins with the number 2, and we can tie. So you're tying it, the made up number, you're like tying it to the blockchain, kind of, right? But it's still basically made up. It's just a new, interesting way to make up those numbers or those names. And like to Jake's point, that idea of like the free or low cost minting is so attractive for speculators that you tend to get this rush of people going in because you're getting something for near free that you're hoping will catch on and you'll be able to flip later, right? So we've seen that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're literally throwing a bunch of shit against the wall, trying to see what sticks.
Yeah,
essentially.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Exactly. You're
Pretty
basically creating a new way to mint stuff. You're basically creating a new way to mint stuff for near free, and that drives a whole lot of adoption typically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So DMT, they just took their own kind of twist in it, and it's inspired by Bitmap, which was kind of one of the original, or I guess one of the popular kind of mints or these type of meta protocols, which actually Bitmap then was attempted on Ethereum and Litecoin and
Everywhere.
Dogecoin and everywhere at one point. So that was kind of the inspiration of it. And yeah, it's fun. The cool part of Bitcoin is that it's a $1.3 trillion asset that has all this underlying liquidity. So there really is room for a lot of these to exist. It's really how much of that, do they really capture? But with almost three times the amount of liquidity of Ethereum, right? And you look at Ethereum that has a fungible token market cap of like 400 billion and a non-fungible market cap of, 5 to 10 billion. If you just 3x that, right, you're saying there is an enormous amount of opportunity here. So people are really just experimenting and throwing shit at the wall, like you said.
I hope you got some simple explanations for when you come on the show later today. I'll tell you that right now.
I will. That we will. We're gonna go around to the hands. So thank you everyone who's waiting patiently. We're gonna go to Stamp Chain and then Not Zero right after.
Yo, I guess that's me. GM, everybody.
Yo.
Arwin here. Reporting. Don't tell anybody I've got the Stamp Chain login, will you? Anyway, just wanted to say a good morning, afternoon to everybody, wherever you are. A little bit of a response, really, to what Jake was saying before. I know Mike's chimed in and a few other things. Is that what will make stamps different and stick out in this ever-increasing competitive field of meta tokens on Bitcoin? Well, totally. And I think I'll just speak as Arwin, as my own view on this. Is that I do a lot of building with AI. Well, I say I do. I mean, I try. I'm terrible. That's why I use AI now. Everybody, and I heard the man just say that before. It's like, at the moment, I think as humans, I mean, it's just my opinion, but we tend to make bad decisions based on the data that we're given. You know, just look at humans generally. I'm not going to labor that point, but I think that, and it's not about being worse, saying every protocol is worse than ours, but I think that when I look at stuff like that, and I'm looking, for example, code, and I'm like, am I going to use Python, or am I going to use React, or am I going to use this or that? You know, it's like, I don't even think about those things anymore. And in fact, I can't even tell the difference. The technology has become ubiquitous to the point that, like, I just say, build me an app that will allow me to check how much money Adam's spending on his Bitcoin McDonald's this week or whatever. Yeah, and it does all the things for me, right? And so I think that's the same with crypto. I think that as we increasingly engage with technology, we're going to be doing it by voice. And for example, as you've said, people like Binance and Ledger and Bitcoin.com, like the really major educational infrastructure has gone out of their way to point out the immutability aspect of stamps. And I heard it said a couple of times, and because I would think, for those who know me, I'm here for the immutability and the memes, you know. But like, I believe that is not a flippant thing, like, oh, I'm not sure if people care about the immutability. Maybe they do or don't. Obviously, as it's been said, there's a huge amount of public support for for stamps and SRC on Twitter. You see that all over the spaces, like people coming in the comments. But obviously, it was a different product that came to market, and we definitely couldn't have launched without Ordinals, because they invented it basically, and or at least this version of it, which then Mike drew upon, you know, and we made an improvement protocol, which is all coming back to, like, second is best, to be honest, second mover advantage, and being able to learn from other people's mistakes, move more slowly and stuff like this. And so, yeah, first of all, I think that when it comes to just storage, like, of if anybody's choosing any tokens, for example, like when Mike said, we've got the atomic swaps and stuff like that. So if you've got a very weak and you know, not very weak, but let's say a less prunable asset, like, for example, Audi, you know, and you're faced with a token that might be similar on stamps that came out before Audi, has presence over it, but simply it's just a matter of public choosing that, and then people making free choices, the new retail users, governments, investment funds, that alone could pump stamps for the same sort of reasons that were alleged at Ordinals, because of their importance of security on L1. I'm just going to go now, but funnily enough, the final thing I've noticed about all this action and activity that's happening with the Bitcoin ETFs and BlackRock, how much money's being traded, and SAP fees are still so low. It makes me realize that all that money's going on to exchanges even more, and these kind of atomic swaps between stamps. And stamps is the ultimate store of value in the universe, apart from weed, as I understand it.
More secure than Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin stamps.
Yeah, absolutely love. Always love your takes, Arwin. We're gonna go to Not Zero and then the Bitcoin socks.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, it's my first time speaking on a space like this, so yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. When we're talking about these stamps and SRC-20, thank you. I can always see that the spin always go towards you know, storing this art in a programmable way, which is fine. Majority of the people joining are focusing on storing art there and creating that art. We also created and also other files like HTML games and stuff, which then opens this protocol to people like Binance and some more serious companies and with bigger power that can develop many different things, and with all this recursion and everything. But yeah, I just wanted to give my own look and my own take on SRC-20 because, again, as I said, they're all tied to actually that art stored there. For me, SRC-20, with all that unprovability that comes, it's actually the closest form of Bitcoin native token that we have, like what ERC-20 is for Ethereum, what SLP-20 are for Solana. For me, that is actually what SRC-20s are. So you have sort of like an alt token on the main chain that is the closest thing to BTC itself. You cannot delete it, you cannot filter it, you cannot prune it, you cannot censor it. You can do anything. It is there. With these updates, it's actually pretty cheap, and I don't know. You can get one meme for what, $10, $15 sometimes, if the fees are higher. Which for me, like that's silly money for you to create. I don't know, an economy behind a token that is pretty much similar to what Bitcoin is. Maybe not by design and structure, but by what it achieves at the end of the day. Basically my reason behind, I don't know, minting every day and deploying every day, deploying tons of shit, it's just that. I mean, for the same amount of money or for something cheap, you can create something that is closest to BTC. And I think that is actually the narrative that we should have for SRC-20. Not will it beat runes, no, will it beat BRC-20? Maybe it will never reach that heights, but I think if people actually look at from the point of what it actually is, as I said, something that is closest to BTC, it's where it makes case for itself. And then you obviously have then the question of, okay, then if for the same money or something more expensive, I can create this thing that is at the end of the day closer to BTC, then why would I touch anything else? Again, everybody has their own choices. This is my point of view. And I think that's, as I said, that's the narrative that we should stick. And then we have a case greater than anything else.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. It is probably the closest to Bitcoin in terms of permanence. It's probably the closest that you get. The Bitcoin sucks. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
GM. First up, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. All we need to do are mic checks. Yeah, so just just want to touch up on a few points that we have so far. Great space so far. I think it's very important that we have more this kind of space regularly, that we talk about like all these issues, right? Not just about this out there floating stamp and how it's better than ERC or blah blah blah, but really talk about what is going on in the economics, in the ecosystem, and what needs to be done and what needs to be improved. So that's why I really enjoy this kind of space that you guys are hosting. So first off, I just want to touch up on the cost, right? So I do have some actual number right in front of me. So try to mint a similar stamp on Magic Eden, and at the current rates for a 1.5 kilobyte file, it costs about $8. If you were to scrap this on, yes.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. Anyway, it's a lot cheaper than it used to be.
So cheap.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the cost is in the past, but currently it costs about $8 to scrap a 1.5 kilobyte files on Magic Eden. So if we were to take that files and we were to stamp it on OpenStamps, and if we were to go to the legacy, the old way, it would cost us around $120. And this is with the same SAT, right? So $120 versus $8 compared to Ordinal. But with the new way, with the new OGA, so that 120 dropped down to about $35. So those are the actual values, cost between Ordinal, the legacy stamp, and the new way, which is the OGA stamp at the moment. $35. Still not as cheap as Ordinal. I just don't think we can ever get there. But the fact that we are storing this on an immutable way, it is still a lot cheaper than it was actually is. And I wish actually we would have known this, but it would cost a ton of money. But yeah, so it's still more expensive. So, but it's very much doable compared to the old way. So that's the actual cost. Right. So the second thing someone kind of chime in to is about all the discussions about what would make stamps explode. I think that's kind of like what the big question in every single project or every single protocol out there is like trying to capture that attention in the market. What can they do, and what can we do to really make the project known and make it flow? So the way that I see, I honestly don't really like the kind of how we try to always tell ourselves that stamp is better or no. I just don't think that's the right way to project kind of like how the stamp is, right? I think we should kind of more focus in a way that stamp is an addition is something different. It's something that can happen in congruent with ordinal as well too, and that stamp can provide something a little bit differently, which is the improvability and the immutability and the security that you don't necessarily get with ordinal. A lot of time right now in the market, I think it's very young, but we are people that are coming in that are mostly looking for gains, right? So then it's I call this like the trifecta problem. Is that which is volume, liquidity, and opportunity for gain. So so this three problem is really hard to kind of solve. And one of the things is that for you to get any of this, it will really help make the ecosystem be more well known. But for you to get this, to achieve any of this three kind of different categories, you need builders, and that's one of the things that's always kind of very difficult for STAMP in the past, that we don't have an open source protocol. So that's why when Rain released that open source indexer, it's kind of opened the floodgate to a lot of builders. I think we have a space in the past where I think one of the builder, Johan, was really like advocate of having stuff open source, and that's the only way that he will be willing to come in to build. So now that we have this floodgate open, and that we have all this other technology that we can actually do it, and even like something like a lot of people that don't even know that can do. For example, like recursive STAMP. I just found out that we can actually do that. So there's like that education part of it as well too. So so there's a lot of things that are happening at the moment that we don't really see the effect of it. But I do think that this is a really good start, and having this kind of space is kind of like the forefront and kind of like what is really necessary to really, start to attract builders and stuff like that. So that's all the kind of stuff that I kind of want to chime in.
I love that, man. I love this is how there are some people trying to push this. When I see the dollar sign, well, I don't know, dollar sign SGM, it's like buy my token. That's when whatever you're doing is working, bro. You gotta get the degens to start shilling your stuff, man.
That's when they put the post in the pump group and they all start reading the post.
That's really well for Solana. I mean, a lot of people were there because
really
1,000 gains, right?
Dude, this stuff is necessary. It's necessary. I mean, I don't think it necessarily moves the needle kind of long term. You do kind of need something to hit that's maybe a little bit different or whatever. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear to me, obviously this space, we've had a bunch of stamp spaces now. There's a core group of people who believe in stamps and are going to believe in stamps. And so certainly not going anywhere, and love to see the innovation, the moving forward, which I mean, we all know it provides kind of this ecosystem where somebody can come in and do something cool and different. And maybe that does kind of take Stamp to that next level. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it is kind of that situation. It's the chicken or the egg situation. And this is extrapolated in crypto through different levels, right? It's like, how do you bring users? Well, liquidity brings users. Well, how do you bring liquidity? With users, right? It's the same thing on the builder side as well, right? How do you bring builders? With speculation? How do you drive speculation? With new infrastructure, right? It's a tough situation to get in. You can always, kind of build yourself out of it, but every single community, whether it's a meta protocol on Bitcoin or, even if you're a centralized exchange, these kind of this scenario continually pops up over and over and over. And at the end of the day, if you're in crypto, the layer 0 or the social layer is the most important. And Stamps has one of the stronger ones across all of the 100%. Meta protocols. All of the Stamps posts that I see consistently gets some of the largest engagement across the industry. So bullish indicators there. One final note I want to say here, for those that aren't aware, Adam, myself, and Chris, we work at Emblem Vault, and we've been supporting counterparty assets since 2020. So almost coming up on 4 years, September 2020. We just launched our marketplace, Emblem Markets, that support stamps. We do still have to migrate those assets over, that we will get done this month. Kind of to think about Emblem, right? You think about this scenario that's kind of proliferating, where Emblem came in and supported stamps and counterparty at a time where the infrastructure was quite minimal. Now the native experiences are improving, which is great. And so you think of like, well, where does that put Emblem at, right? And you could kind of think of it as almost like it's becoming kind of like this like cross-chain layer for UTXO-based assets. So if you are somebody who dabbles in multi-chain, whether you have assets on multiple protocols, or you want to go take your asset to go farm on Blast, or whatever the idea is, this is kind of like the narrative that Emblem is kind of moving towards. And we would like to support native trading on Emblem Markets over the coming months as the improvement to counterparty is implemented, right? And we have had a handful of users who've said, hey, I want to trade my rare Pepes or my stamps in the same marketplace that all my assets are vaulted. So it is something that we are working towards. There's also a few other things that are kind of popping up here. Maybe this is a little bit of alpha, but we do have a builder who's working on building a UTXO fungible token bridge using Emblem Vault. So this is everything from SRC-20s, to Bells, to Bitcoin, to Litecoin, to Dogecoin, etc. So, if you are somebody who's building an SRC-20 or has an SRC-20 project and you want to take that over to ERC-20 for more liquidity, or to Solana as an SPL-20, reach out to us and we can put you in touch with that builder. Again, think of Emblem as kind of this UTXO cross-chain tool for these UTXO-based assets, because we also do believe here that minting your assets on Bitcoin, I think more preferably probably NFTs is probably the winning use case here. Fungible tokens are still kind of working through it, but most people want to now mint their assets on Bitcoin in some capacity and then go gamify it by farming on these smart contract chains, or whatever the kind of case is, whatever the new utilities are. So that is something that we're going to continually be building here. So I pinned to the top emblem.markets. That's our website. I advise to go check it out. And we're going to continually to build it. Think of today as kind of the soft opening to the marketplace, similar to what it's like in the hospitality industry, where you open a restaurant or a club for 1 to 3 months while you kind of work out the kinks. Any features, anything like that the stamps community would like to see on Emblem Markets or just from Emblem Vault, please reach out to us, and we are happy to accommodate all of it. Really, really enlightening conversation here. We love stamps. Adam, any final takeaways or any last points of emphasis before we do wrap it up here?
Go stamps. I think the great thing, I know stamps is in great hands, even though might not check in all the time in the Telegram and stuff. Anytime I pop in there, it's always, oh, you have 3,000 messages, right? And we know that when you have a community that's that solid, long term, it's very, very bullish. Very, very bullish. Meme coins come and go, but hardcore groups like this prevail, and definitely prevail long term, and really have amazing opportunities to just kind of grow and explode as all of crypto grows and explodes. So I'm super bullish, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be on Dave's space later today at 3:30. Who's on stage? 3:30 PST. We'll be talking about Bitcoin assets and Emblem Vault and Emblem Markets. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to be hosting an Emblem Markets show here. So if you guys just want to, if anyone pops in tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to just do basically a whole review, go over kind of what we're looking at here, explain some of the new features, right? What's an app store, all these cool built-in things. We'll be doing that tomorrow. And then Thursday, we're hosting our regular Inscription show, where we cover everything stamps, counterparty, Litecoin ordinals, hashinals, doginals, DRC-20, Inscriptions, etc. The emerging economy in the inscription world. I appreciate everyone for joining. Make sure you follow the Emblem account, please. We have a lot of stuff coming this month, including Emblem.vision, which is basically Emblem.finance V2. We have a whole bunch of cool gamification and a whole new minting and vaulting experience that is coming to that platform as well. Until then, make sure that you follow all the stamps people on stage. Appreciate you, Rianamora, Bitcoin Socks, Bitcoin Ape, HNFT Pepe, Dave for coming on stage. Appreciate everyone who's here. Mike and Space who left. You guys are awesome. Have a good Tuesday. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time.